You're listening to This is Ibrox, your Rangers podcast, brought to you by Triple H Mortgages, the one-stop shop for all your mortgage and mortgage insurance needs. Contact them on 01453 887179 or via email hello@hhhmortgages.com.
Run away tonight, leave the city, we'll be fine.
Hello and welcome to your brand new weekly edition of This is Ibrox, the women's podcast. My name's Scott Patterson and as always you're very welcome. This week on the pod I'm delighted to be joined by our fellow podders. Graham Falk joins us. Hi Graham, how are you?
Always good, mate. Not too bad. I managed to get a pint this week. I know I said a couple of weeks ago I didn't get a pint, didn't think I was going to get one until 2022. I'm pleased to report I've now had two in two separate beer gardens as well. So yeah, positive, mate. I'm very well.
Good to see you're wearing the proper colours tonight as well.
I am, mate. Yes, certainly am. Yeah,
forever known as the Zungu top.
Yeah.
And Courtney McKenzie joins us again. Hi Courtney, how are you?
I'm very good. If anybody's wondering why my face is red, it's because it's no sunburn. It's actually because I've been at the gym, believe it or not. So make of that what you will. I was actually lifting weights. I wasn't just there to take pictures before anybody says it. But you know, that's why I look as if I've just done 10 miles.
So we should say the club are very forward thinking and very happy to provide players as and when we're looking for them. And this week it's Kirsten Reilly's turn to join us. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Happy to be here and looking forward to it.
Glad to have you on. So I'll tell you what we'll do, Kirsten. This week we're going to speak about the last two games, the Glasgow City defeat and of course the victory against Hearts. So a bit of a low to a bit of a high, particularly the result across the city. And Graham, straight away I'll come to you. The victory against Hearts this week is a good one to get off the back of such a disappointing weekend last weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was the scoreline looked maybe a little bit different to say something like 4-4 or Motherwell, but I know a lot of people didn't get the chance to watch it because it wasn't shown on Rangers TV or Alba. But to be honest, the Hearts goalkeeper had a great game. There was about 3 or 4 world-class saves, if I'm completely honest. And I'm not over-exaggerating that at all. I think we hit the post twice, so it could have quite easily been quite comfortable. But fair play to Hearts. I mean, for a team that were bottom of the league, that actually did put in a really good defensive performance, considering the season that they've had. But again, it was just a case of Rangers being a little bit too good, a little bit too fast in their play. But it was good to see the side change. Obviously, Nick Dock didn't play yesterday. Rachel came on late. There was a few players that sort of got the first start in a few weeks, like Dana played at left back. Emma came in again at right back, and there was a few changes sort of in and around. And it was good to see that the style of play remained the same. Nothing really necessarily changed from what you would see from, I know we have starters and finishers, as Maggie likes to say, but say the standard starting 11 that you've maybe seen over the past sort of 6 weeks or whatever it may have been, that changed up, but the style of play didn't. So it's good to see that cohesion was there, and it was needed to be bounced backable, which is not a word, but I'll use it. It was a pleasing evening, shall we say, as a fan.
Courtney, Lizzie Arnott on the goal sheet again. Standard double. You almost expect it now, don't you?
She's just she's just so good. Like she does it, and then she looks as though she's not done like anything. Like she kind of runs away as though she's just played like a normal pass. And I think it was a second goal. I'm trying to remember because obviously plenty going on last night and another game, so my head is pretty full. But our second goal was just so perfectly placed, and the build up for like Sam Kerr as well, and our first goal, like the build up for Brogan Hay, like Graham said, everybody just kind of played their part last night. It was like a really good team performance. Like Graham said, it really could have been a lot more, but yeah, Lizzie Arnott's just scoring goals for fun, as you like to say. I spoke to her a few weeks ago, and she's just so humble in it. She's like, we practice a lot, and I just like scoring, but she's just too good, to be honest.
Kirsten, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on. So as I say, we're going to cover a lot about the season so far as the pod goes on. I think from an introductory perspective, maybe to yourself in the first instance, let us know a wee bit about how you've ended up where you are now. How did you get to Rangers?
Well, I've been at quite a few teams. I started off at Musgrave Windsor, which is my local club, and then went on to Hearts for quite a few years. And after that, I went to America on a football scholarship for
Okay.
4 years, and I was based down in Alabama. Once I was finished there, I then went to Stirling Uni to go do my masters, and I was on a scholarship there too, but I cut that short because Hibs approached me, so moved to Hibs, and then from Hibs I went down south for 6 months, and then I moved to Rangers, and that's where I am now. So I've been around, but happy
And
where I've ended up.
And I assume that we kind of ask a lot of the women that come on the pod. I think one of the main pulls of Rangers just now, other than the fact that it is Rangers, of course, is the fact that there's a bit of an adventure starting now off with the sort of professional sort of approach that they've now adopted since the start of the season.
Yeah, it's great. It is a great environment to be in. Like, everyone's wanting to do well. We're all pushing each other. The backing that the club are giving us, like the facilities, the training, the coaches, all the backroom staff. Like, it's just a great place to be.
Graham, I want to go back to last weekend, but it was well getting it out of the road now. I think it was a big game that we were all sort of looking forward to, and we kind of hoped that we would get a result. It didn't quite go that way last Sunday, did it?
It didn't. And I'm not necessarily a measured person when it comes to the teams that I follow. I'm normally very, very biased and try to find reason for why a team would got beat, but I managed to be quite balanced with it. I think I was in a press conference with another side a few weeks ago on behalf of the Scotsman, and the sentence that was put forward is that Rangers have invested a lot, so therefore they should naturally be expected to win a trophy. Now, as people can probably tell by the wrinkles on my forehead and the bags under my eyes, I'm old enough to remember sides like Manchester United being completely dominant, and no matter what anyone did, if say like Chelsea won one title, Man United would come back and win two. And I think Glasgow City is probably underestimated in some senses, maybe not by the people within Rangers or within Celtic or whoever it may be, but I think sometimes the outside looking in went, well, Rangers have invested heavily, they've took players from Glasgow City, that's just going to work. And in essence, it has. Like, there's 3 defeats in a season is nothing to be sniffed at, like not at all. Especially when you look at the Celtic games. I think anyone who was there, I was obviously at both. I'm not quite sure how it ended up with no points towards Rangers, but we've sort of laboured on that. Glasgow City was a little bit different, and I think the 5-0 win probably raised expectations outside of Rangers. I think a lot of people were talking about the changing of the guard and all this kind of stuff, and that was, I know lockdown came in, but that would have been 4 or 5 months before the season ends. Glasgow City have won every game apart from that 5-0 defeat up until last night. Glasgow City are a good side. They're a complete dynasty. They're not a team that has won 1 or 2 trophies in a row or dominated for a couple of years. They've dominated for 13 years, and there's a reason for that. Yeah. There's the cohesion, there's a mentality in there, and if I'm honest with you, that's what came across, and that's, I hope Kirsten doesn't mind me saying this, but that's probably something Rangers have to learn. That'll come in time, like in the way that teams are used to winning titles. Sometimes you just have that mentality and that know-how to go on and win games like that, and that's just what happened. They're a good side. I've seen a lot of criticism of the game afterwards, and I didn't agree with it. I think there's absolutely no shame in getting beat off Glasgow City, especially when you've just done them 5-0 a few months beforehand and they've probably got something between the teeth. It wasn't ideal, but I think a lot of people on the flip side were saying about the 5-0 defeat or the 5-0 win that Rangers had, and said, oh, well, that, changing of the guard and all this kind of stuff. And then the vice versa sort of happened, and Glasgow City got a relatively comfortable win at Rangers. And it suddenly becomes, oh, well, that's Glasgow City won the title. And then a few days later, they get a draw to Celtic. There's Scott Booth is someone who said this, obviously Glasgow City manager, but there's too many changes to say anyone's won the league. And Rangers have very much still got a chance of winning the league, as have Celtic. And of course, Glasgow City. So I think there's a few twists and turns just yet. But in the game itself, Glasgow City played like champions on that day. And that's currently what they are. And that's probably something that I would imagine, from the outside looking in, will be something that Kirsten, you and the players will learn from. And it's something that you probably will need at some point. You don't learn much when you win every single week. And I mean, I'll put this to you. I'm guessing you've learned an awful lot from that already, Kirsten, yeah?
Yeah, we have. We've spoke about it as a team and stuff, but we know that we never performed to the best of our abilities too. So that wasn't great from our part. But you're right, they do have a lot of experience. They've got a lot of experienced players in there, like Joe Love and Hayley Lauder and stuff, but we will learn from it and hopefully we'll bounce back, and we showed that in the last game as well by getting the win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of all I would say on it, Scott. Really, I think if you win every week, you don't actually learn that much. Games like that will stand Rangers and other sides in the league who do go professional, which will happen in time. Losing big games, they'll learn you to not do that in the future, and sometimes you need that, and I think Rangers will learn from it. At least I hope, because if not, I'm going to look stupid on a recorded podcast saying that.
Courtney, I think we've obviously got a sort of cluster of games that have just passed for the women's team, including sort of pretty emphatic victories against Forfar, Farmington, Motherwell. But I think the games that we'll look at in 4 weeks' time will be these games against Glasgow City and Celtic. I just wonder the disappointment from a supporter's point of view. I think Kirsten's covered it, but how they've done the post-match analysis as far as what went wrong, what needs to be better, etc. I wonder from a supporter's perspective, when we look back in that, what will these games actually mean anything, considering we still have to play each other again between now and then?
I think, personally, I know it's going to sound horrible, but it's probably, not in terms of the league table, it's obviously not a good thing, but I think coming towards the last game of the season, obviously it's the last game of the season, Glasgow City and Rangers, I think the fact that Rangers got that 5-0 win, that was fantastic. Glasgow City have come back, got their, revenge, if you like, and I think the last game of the season is going to be in the case of like, well, who wants it more? Who's going to go out and prove that they've got a bigger point to prove? If Rangers win that game, it'd be 2 wins in a row, and I think Glasgow City, they've just been like, we really need to win this. That's two defeats in a row. But the fact that it's like 1 each now, essentially, and getting into the last game of the season, where it could tell who takes the trophy home. I don't want to speak too prematurely, but depending on how Glasgow City do coming up until that, how Rangers do, it could tell who takes the trophy home. And I think from a fan's point of view, it was disappointing, but you've got to be realistic. Like, Glasgow City just never let Rangers settle. They just didn't. Every single pass was covered. Every single goalkeeper's ball was covered. And as a fan, it's all, like I said, it's disappointing. But you've just got to sit and realise, it's their first season as professionals. A lot of them come in like January. So what they've done is like exceptional. You've got to think of the positives. But the Glasgow City team, like Kirsten said, a lot of them have been together for years. Like Leanne Crichton, Joe Love, Hayley Lauder, they've been playing together for so long, probably like longer than most of they've been at Scotland. So you've just got to look at it and think, it's what I play for now, and it's Glasgow City at the end of the day. It's not a bottom of the table team. It's a team that's won 13 years in a row for a reason.
Yeah. Kirsten, the gaffer said in his Hearts press conference this week that on Monday he got you guys in reasonably early doors just to talk about what almost went wrong, if you like, on the Sunday. I appreciate you were injured during the match on Sunday. I just wonder what sort of things were exchanged. Was it just a sort of your standard sort of look at things? How do we improve things? How do we get better? Or was it a bit more, not vociferous as such, but was it a bit more ranty at that? Because it was a good opportunity, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did do some talking after the game too, which I was there for. And we were just saying, like, we just said the obvious, that we weren't good enough. We never done what we needed to do.
Yeah.
Defensively, all over the pitch, we weren't strong enough and stuff. But it wasn't ranty at all. It was just straight to the point, facts that we needed to hear.
Yeah.
I wasn't in training on Monday. I was in the physio room, so I didn't hear everything that was happening out on the pitch. But I'm sure that he's just done what he usually does, and he's just tried to fix what we've done wrong and speak to individual players in the group collectively as well, and try and fix it for the next time, basically.
And I think we can ask now, your injury that obviously kept you out the Hearts game this week, is that running the risk of keeping you out for this weekend, do we think?
Nah, I don't think so. I think I'll be back.
Here's your exclusive, Graham.
Thank you very much. I'll take it.
So I think, Graham, what the big headline for these two games, as I kind of said at the start, was going from a really disappointing low to the high of getting back to scoring 4 goals, but obviously having one eye on the Glasgow City Celtic draw.
Mm-hmm.
I think the draw was the best result that we could have hoped for in that tie.
Depends how we look at it, I guess. I think probably, yeah, because I suppose, in a sense, I know we like writing Celtic off across the board, which is fine normally, but I think in reality, I think say Celtic win, you've got to say that they're going to have a bit between their teeth and think, well, hang on, we've gone from not being in a race at all to suddenly being, a win away from it, and they'll be looking at Glasgow City slipping up, and if Glasgow City slip up, then it's Celtic that's in pole position. So I think originally I would have preferred Celtic to take the point. I think in reality, keeping them both, gaining 2 points on both sides and moving above Celtic's probably beneficial.
Yeah.
But proof in the pudding will come at the end of the season. I feel very much like I sound like Marky, like I've been listening to Marky far too much. I'm very much see 2 or 3 games ahead and not a game at a time, but I've suddenly fell into Marky's mantra. It's funny you were saying before, Kirsten, he was chatting in the press conference and a similar question was asked if it was a frank and honest conversation, which I think translated as, did you shout and ball at them? And he was very much, he said those days are gone. He said a part of the team's process and a part of the team's learning is understanding exactly how you feel after a defeat like that. I think, like you said, there's a lot of different pressures with Rangers that'll come with the size of the club. And I know we've talked about Glasgow City and the fact that they've been champions for so long and Rangers are still learning, but the stature of Rangers Football Club at the under-5s level across every single side with both genders is still Rangers at the end of the day, and I think everyone sort of knows that. But he was saying that it was quite important that he wanted to speak to you straight after the game to get an understanding of how you felt, to see how you felt in the aftermath of it, as opposed to letting things settle and going in on Monday, because sometimes finding out how you feel in the aftermath of the game helps. But with Marky, I've always been really impressed with the way that he does speak. He doesn't rant. As a player, does that help you? Does it help you grow more than someone who maybe rants at you? And maybe if you've had a manager in the past that shouted and screamed, does it help having someone who's just trying to understand how you felt in the aftermath of a game, be it win, lose or draw?
Yeah, I do think so, because in situations like that, we're hurting as players already, so we're not needing just shouted at. I think there's a happy medium too, like if we aren't performing consistently, we need to be shouted at because we need to act upon it. But the way that he approached it was really good, because he was asking us how we felt, like wanting to know our opinions individually and stuff. So hopefully it will help in the long run, and we'll have got points from that conversation that we had, and moving forward will be better.
I've got to ask, does he make the sandwiches personally? Because after the Motherwell game, he managed to give me this vegetarian wrap, which I've got to be honest, was dynamite, but I don't know who makes those sandwiches. So I thought I'd try and pick your brains whilst I had you, Kirsten. Who makes those wraps?
That'll be the kitchen staff, definitely not Malky. I don't think he could make something like that.
Fair play. Kitchen staff deserve a promotion then. They've already won a title in my eyes, put it that way, the kitchen staff.
They are very good.
He strikes me as the sort of guy that would maybe take credit for making such a culinary delight, to be perfectly honest.
He didn't indicate that he didn't, put it that way. So I was under the illusion that maybe he did. But the secret's out now, Kirsten. So yeah, well done. You've got yourself in hot water there, I think.
Courtney, I'm going to come to you next. The month of April was a big month for Brogan Hay, and this afternoon has of course been confirmed as player of the month, and deservedly so.
I got the wee press release through, and I seen the subject, and I was actually not wanting to open it for now, because I know that Odie from Glasgow City's obviously had a great month. Lauren Perry had, she scored that goal and has done really well, and Becky Galbraith as well for Spartans, she's done a bit of a go run as well. So I knew that she would get it, just in the sense that, the month of April for Brogan was just mad, and like last night, the game obviously wasn't streamed, so you wouldn't have seen it, but she was running down the wing, and I can't mind for the life of me who she took on, but and I don't even know the name of the skill. She probably made it up or something, but Kirsten will maybe have to correct me, but she's just took the ball, stuck it literally like Velcro to her feet, like a pure Joe Aribo style, and just moved past this defender. I think the poor girl was like, where did she go? Like, well, I had her a second ago, but like she was fantastic last night as well, and like she always is. She's really consistent, and like Kevin said, she's come on like leaps and bounds since she was younger, and she's worked on like her final ball, and I think it's fair to say with her assist stats that working on her final ball has certainly worked, because she puts a ball in the box and Zoe, Lizzie, anybody that's there usually puts it in. So, fantastic month for her and very deserved.
Kirsten, for someone like yourself who plays in the sort of centre of the park, it must be really good to have someone that you can release the ball to, who I would say 90% of the times is going to sort of create something for the team up top.
Yeah, I love playing with Brogan. You know that if you play the ball out, she's going to get there. Even if it's a bad pass, Brogan's going to get there because she's that quick. And it's great to watch her. She has improved a lot this season, even since we came back after the last lockdown, whenever it was. Can't remember what month it is, but she's grown in confidence too, which she is a confidence player, so it's good to see. And I was really happy that she won the award. I was buzzing for her, so it was great to see that all her hard work's getting credit for.
Graham, I'm almost sure that Malky said when he was on the pod with yourselves and Willie Boyd, he referred to just how much Brogan was working on her game and was improving. I think the fact that she's getting awards now would certainly back that point up.
I think I said it on Twitter today. I'm not trying to blow smoke up my backside. Quite honestly, like, I've watched Rangers more exclusively since I've moved back to Glasgow at the start of the season. So I seen Brogan when maybe she was someone who would come off the bench for 20 minutes and give you like an injection of pace. And I've very much probably seen her as that. But then I really like her sort of, she's old school. And I mean, old school me, standard to me, to the younger generation, maybe not the same, but she gets the ball and she just wants to take our fullback on. And there's something about that that I think people have, should we say man in your age, Scott, I kind of
thanks for that. Thanks very much.
I apologise.
Guess. What do you think? 30 what?
I'll say 21 on a recorded pod, but 47.
47.
I don't get the old person chat because I'm leaving 20 yet. So
actually, I've changed my mind, Scott. 55.
I like being this young because I don't get that part.
You're getting too close.
55, Scott.
Right, carry on.
But she's, you know what, Brogan. I think when you do get older, you don't necessarily have a favourite player and stuff like that. But like, she's the kind of player I like watching. She's someone who will get the ball, run at a fullback, and she's really learned to put a ball in. She's become, I think I wrote in my column today, she's gone from someone who is, impact sub to first name on the team sheet, if I'm completely honest. I think that's testament to her, but typical of a Rangers player, I think she was very much in the presser this morning praising her teammate. She wouldn't really take too many personal accolades. It was how the team alongside her helped her grow as a person and player. And I no doubt that's true, but and I have no doubt that she genuinely means that. But for the improvement that she's made, not that she was bad at the start of the season, but from most important probably, you really have to say that a lot of that's down to herself and her own hard work, and obviously the confidence that she's been shown recently to take a player on. She's just been, I think it's just points you want to get the ball, and because you want to take someone on, you want to be excited. You're as a fan, you as a pundit, as whatever you may be, you want to be excited by players, and she's very much someone in that mold. And I think, I'll just echo what Courtney said there. I absolutely think she deserved it, and I think she'll go on stronger. I honestly think she can add something to the Scotland squad that they don't have. I know it was mentioned a little bit, but she's been at the youth levels. But I honestly think if she keeps on the trajectory that she's on, she's something Scotland don't necessarily have at the moment. And I'd quite like to see her given the chance, because the proof will then be in the pudding if she steps up to the national team, and I think she could.
So I have to say, and you won't know this, but there was something hugely satisfying about you slagging me off about my age, because when you were talking there, it sounded like you went underwater for about 30 seconds and then your screen froze.
Amazing. Love that.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to leave it, but...
However, the professionalism of the group carried you through it.
You remain. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I apologise for being underwater temporarily.
Courtney, people like Lizzie Arnott and Zoe Ness playing at the sort of top end of the pitch must be really, really happy every time they see Brogan on the ball on either flank, because they know that there's a good chance the ball's going to find. I'm thinking particularly Lizzie Arnott, who is in such a rich vein of form just now. There's a good chance if Brogan finds her, that she's going to hit the back of the net.
I mean, it's mad, because the way that Rangers, play, especially recently, it's not as if the ball goes to Brogan runs and it's in the box. Sometimes there's this beautiful play of triangle passing that happens. It happened, I think, not last night. It was like maybe, wasn't against City, but I can't even remember. But it's so vividly in my mind. I can remember Zoe Ness getting the ball, playing it out to Brogan. And I think Chelsea Cornet done an overlap, and it was just this triangle play, and then it did end up with Brogan. But don't get me wrong, if you play the ball to Brogan, she will put it in if it suits. But she's never scared to play that short pass and get that extra yard, on the fullback. And I think that's the best thing about it. And Lizzie Ann floats about the pitch. You can never say, oh, she's on the right, because she wound up on the left like the next 10 minutes and getting involved in the passing. And Sam Kerr does the same. She, I think it was she done really good play she played really good play last night to get an assist. And but she gets the ball, puts it in the box, or plays that wee short pass 1-2, and it's in the box. I think it's crazy how well they play up front and at the back. It's just the Rangers style of playing it at the end of the day.
Kirsten, it's probably fair to say that people like Sam Kerr and Brogan are very much in the limelight just now, because the way they've played over the last sort of 2 or 3 months. Scotland call-ups, I would suggest, are entirely plausible.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, whoever the coach will be looking in and seeing the performances that everyone's putting in. And I think Brogan's very deserving of all the recognition she's getting, and hopefully she will get that step up, like you were saying. There's not many people like her in the Scotland squad right now, so adding something different might make Scotland's performance all round better. So hopefully she will get all that recognition, and hopefully she'll get the call up.
Kirsten, I'm going to stick with you. I want to speak about Sonia O'Neill, who's obviously came off the bench the last couple of games and scored. She seems to be at last getting into a bit of maybe a run of form as such, but she's certainly ditched maybe the injuries that she's had previously and beginning to get back into the way of things a little.
Yeah, it is great to see her injury free finally. She seemed to have been picking up quite a few niggles at first, but she's doing really well just now, and you can see that she's working on things in training and stuff, and she's always following balls in, like, to get these goals, and she's looking to link up play and stuff when she comes on, so it's great to see that she's back on the pitch.
We should say as well that she's who we're aiming for next. Join us in the pod. So off camera, Kirsten, any goss, that's where you spread it. Graham, the league table as it looks just now, 5 points between ourselves, Celtic and Glasgow City. We're at a busy time of the season where games are Wednesday weekend. Quite an important time of the season now where you really need to be sort of foot on the throat stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think every manager's saying the same thing, game at a time. We look after ourselves. You don't do that as a fan. Let's not kid ourselves. You just don't. It's because it's not the environment we work in. I understand a manager or a player having that mindset, and I probably prefer them to have that, to be honest, because if you don't win your next game, then the rest of the ones don't really matter. But I think so, and I think in a way it's probably good that for Rangers, Malky is concentrating the game at a time, because you're kind of waiting for Glasgow City to slip up to give yourself that chance on the final day. Because if Glasgow City don't slip up, then there's no chance at the last, like mathematically, the last game of the season.
Yeah.
Do I think a club can go the next 5-6 games winning every game? Yeah, absolutely. If it's Glasgow City, I think Rangers could. I think Celtic could. And that's kind of the beauty of it in a way. And it's quite nice for once that the Scottish Women's Premier League's been spoken about. I think for a long time, Glasgow City have been dominant. And Hibs, as Kirsten will well know, were the second best team and pushed them close a lot of times, but never quite managed to overcome Glasgow City in the league. Well, no one has. I think if not this season, and I hope Laura Montgomery doesn't hate me for saying this, I think in the near future someone will be that Rangers, be that Celtic, be that Hibs, because you never know what's going to happen with Hibs in the near future. Something could happen there as well, because they invest and they've always shown a lot of attention towards the women's side for a long time. I don't know whether it will happen this season. I would quite like to think Rangers will at least finish in the Champions League. I'm naturally quite a pessimistic person when it comes to football, positive in every other aspect, because then, if things go against how I think, I'm going to be surprised. But I would much prefer Rangers to not win the league this season and then win it for the next 3 years, much like the men's side did. Be quite happy for 13 in a row or 14 in a row to then become, none in a row for quite a long time.
So that's interesting. Do you mean almost bed themselves in? So get used to the rigours of professional football, and I don't mean that disrespectfully by any matter. I mean, it's just get themselves used to that, the sort of approach that's required from a football or day job type thing,
I mean, Kirsten, you can probably give me more of a personal insight into this, and I've touched on it before. Obviously, I work with a part-time women's team in the Northeast when I'm not in Glasgow, and I don't think people appreciate how much female footballers who are not full-time professionals, what they have to do and the sacrifices they have to make to play games. A lot of them work 9 to 5 or sometimes 12 till 8 and then run to training, shove a Tesco sandwich down their throat. There's no nutritionist, there's no sports scientist. There's none of that kind of stuff. Sometimes you can't make training because work needs you, and at the end of the day, you need to pay your rent. And I think, when people talk about quality of football and people talk about all that kind of stuff, and they unfortunately make the comparisons, which as much as we all hate them, that do happen, unfortunately. People forget things like that. But in this aspect, in this context, I think what people probably don't realise about Rangers is they think, I seen a comment on Twitter, for example, someone said, we were promised wins, Rangers, what's going on? You don't just win every game. You don't just go professional and win every game.
Yeah.
There's a transition to that. And I mean, Kirsten, you obviously came from Hibs. Hibs are not exactly like a part-time team. They've been a successful team. You've been part of a successful team. But you're probably someone that's got a little bit more experience than some of the players who have just gone professional. But it's still not been 9 to 5 at the training ground or 9 to 2 or whatever it may be, and then being able to put your feet up and being able to kind of concentrate on your mental side of things, the physical side of things. And as much as it does help, it takes a lot of time, doesn't it, Kirsten, to kind of switch from not being professional to being professional. You don't just win leagues as soon as you go professional.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I was at Hibs, I was still like working. I used to work in a school, and then, but like before that, I'd go to the gym and then training. So like it really wasn't the same as what I'm doing now. So even the transition over, like you can really feel it. And I feel like there has been a lot of pressure put on us from like outside, but we just try and not focus on that. And like it is a process. It could take 1-2 seasons, who knows? But we've all got the same aims, and hopefully we will hit those targets, whether it's this season, next season, or the next. But like if you're comparing us to Glasgow City, they have been more of a full-time team with a lot of experienced players, as we said, for a longer time. Like they know how it's done. So to put us in the same boat as them on our first professional season, it's just not really comparable.
And I think there's a lot of another thing people don't really realise. We've touched on Leanne Crichton, we've touched on Joe Love. I'm obviously far older than them, so hopefully they don't hate me for saying they're experienced, but they are. I think some of them are in their 30s or approaching their 30s. Loads and loads of caps for Scotland, loads of titles under their belt, done it all basically for a long, long time. When you're talking experienced players, off the top of my head, obviously Demi at the moment's injured. She would be one of the most experienced, so you've lost that. I think people forget that we've lost the best striker in the league in Kirsty Howard, and I don't mean that it's a biased comment. I think the proof's in the pudding.
Friend of the pod, though. Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod, yeah. Friend of the pod, Kirsty Howard, indeed. Football friends.
Oh, you bet me to it. You bet me to it. I was going to start taking like with that there, but you bet me, so I'll leave it until the next time.
But I think people don't realise how young the Rangers team is as well. Nick Dock's 26. That's not old in any way, shape, or form. She's just been in the game for a longer time than some others. But there's still a lot of players there that, I mean, Nick Dock's probably not the greatest example because she's won titles. But in terms of like Leanne Crichton, Joe Love, players like that, Lee Alexander, she's still relatively young. She's got a lot of career left in her. And there's people like Brogan we're talking about. Brogan's 22, I think, just turned. In any other walk of life, if you put a bunch of really young professionals, you wouldn't expect them to be winning titles. Because it's Rangers, the pressure's there, and that's kind of the beauty of Rangers almost. You kind of, one of the reasons you probably joined, Kirsten, is because it's Rangers and it comes with those pressures. But I think I'm probably more speaking about the reaction to last week's defeat and comments like, we were expected wins. You kind of do, but I also support Sunderland, so maybe I'm a little bit more balanced. The winning's not really in my nature. But I think it will come, and you know, to go back on stuff before, what I really like, and it's a bit corny and it's a bit cliche, but when you just get beat, Kirsten, you can really see it hurts you, and that helps as a fan. That really matters. I've seen players in men's football and women's football that just don't care. They're just not bothered. It's just a game and they're done, and that's fine if that's the way people want to be. But I mean, you could see the likes of yourself, Nick Dock, Brogan, Zoe Ness were not happy to lose on Sunday. You could see like a dejection in it, and that stays with a professional player. I found, I don't know, I'm rubbish at football, but I think that stays with players. And I think winning a title this season, yeah, that'd be great, that'd be amazing. But you've got to go win the next 2, 3, 4, 5. There's no point in winning 2 league titles just to go and lose the next 10. I think when you talk about Rangers, the reason Rangers are synonymous with championships and titles is because of the history. So there's no point in having one title and not another one for 10. So I think you want to create a dynasty. You don't want to create a one-season wonder. And I think I see that from what I've watched. So as much as I'll not be happy if we don't win it, I'm not going to beat any of the players up about that. I've got a strong understanding of why they might not. And I think to finish second or third would be a great achievement for Rangers and the women's team and where they've been in the past. And hopefully they prove me wrong and they win the next 20 titles. But I do think people need to have an understanding of where they are at as professionals, where they are as a team, and I think the sustained progress is the most important thing.
Kirsten, one thing I do want to ask you, I'm obviously aware that you've sort of played with both teams in Edinburgh. You've been in the States to play. You've played down south, and you're now at Rangers. I'm curious to understand rather the difference between where you are now and particularly the experience in the States as far as setup, etc. is concerned. Obviously, soccer in the States is absolutely massive. I'm curious to know how, particularly for the women, I'm curious to know how that's been moved and adapted here. Do you see any similarities in the way things are being rolled out in this country?
Yeah, I do. The facilities in America were great. Like, and obviously before I went, I was at Hearts, and back then, like, they weren't fully affiliated with the club and stuff, so it was more just like a local team type thing.
Yeah.
So like, we never had the gym sitting there. Like, I just trained at a local park near mine actually. So then when I went out to America, like, I was just like, wow, like, everything's great here, like the whole setup. And it isn't, because I was at uni doing it, it's not just like the athletics department type thing that's supportive, like the whole university is supportive of you, which is a big thing, I'd say. So that was great to see and stuff. But then comparing it to Rangers, I feel like it's like the whole club's for you. So they have got the right setup there, and it is pretty comparable, and like the facilities are great at Rangers and stuff. So I'd say they're on the same level as what I had over in America, which is great.
Fantastic. Great, I think, for anyone to be going in and out of the training centre on a daily basis to do their day job. Fantastic, great stuff. Courtney, I'm going to come to you next. We obviously have the game of the weekend where we travel to Spartans. Kirsten's obviously given us the exclusive earlier on that she's going to be fit and raring to go for that. It's another game to look forward to for the women, and one you would like to think they'll go into in a bit of confidence after the 4-0 victory against Hearts.
I mean, first of all, I'm just gutted not to be there. I'll be at City v Forfar, which will probably be a pain to report on, you know, probably another goals fest, to be honest, another 500.
Bye, Matt.
But, you know, at least Graham will be there. He'll be doing all the work, and I'll be getting to just, you know, have nothing to do, basically. But, you know, it's obviously good hearing that, you know, Kirsten's probably going to be back for Sunday. I don't want to jinx it, and, you know, they're on Sunday, you're in crutches or something, but, you know, touch wood. There you go. But, you know, Spartans are so, like, I think me and Graham were talking about this last night, actually. Spartans are so underrated. Like, they're a team that can come and actually take points off you. Like the last time, like Rangers played Spartans not long ago, and it was a 1-0 win. You know, and you know, people think, oh, Spartans, like, you don't hear them being affiliated with a men's club, you don't hear about them much, but they've got a really good setup, and their manager knows the league inside out. You know, I was speaking to Malky last night, and he was saying the exact same. Kevin said that as well this morning, that the manager knows the league inside out, and you know, Becky Galbraith is been up for the Player of the Month award for April as well, up against Brogan. So, you know, she scores a lot of goals, and Spartans are just Spartans are a team that you can't write off until the 90th minute, until you think that we're going to win this. But I think coming from the defeat at City and then winning last night, I'd like to think that Rangers have got enough fire in their belly to go on Sunday and get have a good few goals and get that goal difference up that could prove to be very vital come the last game of the season.
Graham, every game for our club's a big one, but I think when you're chasing down the league title at this time of the season, the importance becomes more important almost. It's a big game on Sunday.
It really is. Like kind of what Courtney said before, I think people look at Rangers, Celtic, Glasgow City as the three teams, and that's the correct thing to do. So they're the teams that are going to be pushing for the title come the end of the season. Everyone's going to be there or thereabouts. And then you look at Hibs because of their history. Spartans are every bit as good as Hibs this season. There's a reason they're above them. And Rangers only beat them 1-0. I know it was 5-0 in, I want to say, December. I could be wrong.
Something like that. I'm far off that, I don't think.
But it was like 1-0 in November. Same ground, obviously, as Hibs at Ainsley Park. It's not the nicest pitch to play on. Sorry, Kirsten, if you take it back. It's not the same as maybe what was at Celtic Park or the Rangers Training Centre. It's a bit different. It's Edinburgh City's ground as far as I'm aware. However, we should have enough. Spartans are a good side, and they're certainly not maybe in the mould of some teams that are going through a lot of issues, such as Forfar. I think, to be fair to Forfar, we did beat them 11-0, and they've lost a few games by quite a lot. They've had a lot of issues, recently. Spartans aren't going through that. Spartans are getting stronger season on season, game by game. I'd be more than happy with the 1-0. I think sometimes people expect the Glasgow Cities and the Hibs and the Celtic games to be close games and the rest to be whitewashes. Spartans are very much up there with Hibs, so I'll take a 1-0 and a clean sheet. Thank you very much. Off someone's backside in the last minute, no problem.
So, Kirsten, we should say at the end of every pod, what we do is we ask you as the player to volunteer someone for the next time we all catch up. As we've said, we're already trying to line up Sonia over the next couple of weeks. Is there anyone else that you know in and around the changing room that would be desperate to come on and give us some of their banter?
I think Rachel McLaughlin. She's always talking about that she watches other people's, so I think she'd be buzzing to come on. So
do you think she'll have critiqued your performance tonight?
I'm sure. I know she watches them all, so I'm sure she will.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on tonight, particularly with you've been injured this week, so I could appreciate if your morale was maybe a little bit lower than usual. Glad to hear that you are very much on the mend, and we hope to see you in and around the team in the not too distant future. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Graham, sorry, Courtney.
I will be raging, just let you know. That'd be lies all the time. Malcolm and Kevin are the worst for it, so if Kirsten starts lying, then I'm retiring this podcast.
Courtney, on that note, thanks for joining us in another pod. It's always remarkable.
Oh, thank you. That was so heartfelt. I really felt the emotion through that, Scott. Thank you.
And Graham, you're looking after things from us from a Twitter, overarching social media perspective at the weekend, aren't you?
Indeed, yeah. I don't know whether I should admit this on a podcast, but I'm going for a nice spa day with my girlfriend beforehand in Edinburgh.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Cucumbers over the peepers, yeah.
Pretty much. Take them up at 4:10, ready for the game. Wheel me in. I'll be fine.
It's funny, I just went like that. It's kind of universal language for cucumbers, apparently. Who knew?
Oh, can you see us now? Who knows?
So listen, thanks. Sorry, Courtney.
That for the women's team at the end of the season, can you see us now? But I don't want to jinx anything. I hate saying that. It's Graham. See, the thing is, I know we're finishing, but I like to get my wee bit in. But Graham always goes, oh, I would take it if we don't win it this season. I think I'd actually be heartbroken just because despite me working in the women's football industry, I cannot deny my love for Rangers Football Club. So, I kind of sit here and be like, oh, it'll be fine. I would probably cry for a good few days, but, I'll just kid on, it would be fine.
That's where the difference in age comes in. I'm used to disappointment, you see.
You're so ancient, that's why.
Wait until you get to my age, guys. I'll tell you. Yeah. Disappointment becomes a thing of normality, let me tell you. Listen, I hope you all enjoy the Spartans game at the weekend, Kirsten. Hope you see you there, either if not in the starting lineup, certainly on the bench somewhere. Thanks again for joining us. Graham, Courtney, we'll do it all again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Fire's raging. I'm shaking. You wanna go out? I wanna stay in. Why?